First of all, I want to say hello to everyone and welcome you out tonight. And I want to say thank you for coming out. My name is Jefferson. I'm the Senior Rec Specialist for the City of Lynchburg Parks and Recreation Department here at Jefferson Park. We want to welcome you to the first community listening session with Ryan Zudema, Chief of Police for the Lynchburg Police Department. And our facilitator for this evening will be Miss Gloria Witt. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. Thank you.
Good evening. We appreciate everyone being here. I'm just going to say a couple of quick words. I'm going to turn it over to Gloria so she can kind of let you know how we're going to go through this evening, and then I'll have a few other things to say. But I just want to say I know there's a lot going on in the world, and I know there's a lot going on in people's lives, and I know it's really hot out here tonight too. So the fact that you guys are here means a lot to us. We are here to listen to what you have to say, so we appreciate you all being here. There are some waters in the back there. They're not horribly cold, but there is water. And then I think I'm correct for Parks and Recs folk. The bathroom is over there because the building is closed right now due to COVID restrictions. So you can go over to the bathroom over there if you need that during this time. But anything else you need while you're here, please don't hesitate to track one of us down. We'll point you in the right direction. I'm going to turn it over to Gloria. She's going to kind of go through how we'll process all this tonight, and then I'll have a few statements, and then we'll get to why we're really here, which is to listen to all of you. Okay? So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Zudema. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting this, what I would view as a critical moment of listening. So I want to go through the structure, controlled structure, how we're going to interact with each other tonight. Again, my name is Gloria Witt. I am considered an expert facilitator. I've been at this work for more than 10 years. And so in my role as facilitator, it's really about keeping the space safe, engaging, and ensuring that the people in the room feel heard and respected, as well as meeting the agenda. So that's a little bit about me. You might look around and see a lot of men. I don't see women in blue. And so they are here really to listen and observe because this is very important to them. These men and women put their lives at stake each day, and they are struggling to figure out how can we meet the needs of our citizens, and more importantly, our African American citizens. And so they are having a need to hear what you have to say so that they can internalize it and ultimately improve systems where necessary to meet your needs. So tonight is really about having our men and women in blue, if they're here, to listen to your stories. It's about stories and not about blaming, etc. Your story is your story, and you stand in that, and we want to hear those stories. And then, of course, we want to shift near the end of the evening to what would a perfect community policing organization look like for you. And so we're listening for how you describe it. What do you need your police officers to be doing in your community to meet your needs? And as fellow human beings, that's all anybody can do. Meet you where you are, share your story, and let's move to those next levels. Regarding introductions, I promised Chief Zudema that I would open the floor to allow the officers to share their name and their assignments, just so that we can educate each other about the various types of focus that our police officers have as they go about their daily work. So with that said, I would ask anyone that's a man or in uniform to just kind of say your name and your assignment around the outer edges. So that's what they'll be doing, observing and listening after they share their name and their assignments. Sounds good? Any questions? All right. So shall we start here? Thank you.
How y'all doing? I'm Nick. I'm a captain over our administration bureau, which has things like professional standards, our training unit, personnel and recruiting, animal control, records, information desk. So a lot of functions
A little louder, please.
Matthew Scott with the Criminal Investigations Division.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Todd Farley. I'm a detective with the Criminal Investigations Division.
Sergeant Brian Smith, I'm with the Personnel Recruiting.
I'm Josh Campbell. I'm the acting captain of the Criminal Investigations Division. Good evening, Mark Jameson. I'm the deputy chief over our Investigations Bureau and our Administrations Bureau.
John Pavey, I'm an officer on the Community Action Team.
Good evening, everyone. This is Dred Hubbard with the Community Action Team.
I'm Brian Ball. I supervise Animal Control Unit.
Wonderful. Thank you all for supporting this initiative and your willingness to listen and learn. Some other housekeeping activities. This is live streamed because the agency really want to send the message of transparency, and we're hoping that you will be transparent in your stories as you begin to share them this afternoon. Out of respect for the environment and for this moment, I would ask that all of you at this moment quieten your cell phones. Nothing drives me personally any crazier than a cell phone going off. So please get your cell phones on vibrate or off, and let's respect this moment. Let's see, what else do we need to cover? We will have a note taker. That's Miss Carrie Duncan, and would you please introduce yourself and your role there?
Department, so I do this kind of stuff, all of our media relations and everything like that, and I'm excited to hear what everybody has to say.
Wonderful, thank you. And her goal and objective really is to capture the key themes and the key feedback. In a perfect world, there should be a theme that evolves from the stories that we're about to listen to. And her number one priority is listen attentively and capture the notes. Any questions with what's expected? Yes.
Is there a time limit on the comments?
Just getting ready to get there.
Okay.
We have two main questions to deal with today. An introductory question that basically asks you to share stories of your experiences with racism, discrimination, or even positive experiences with the police as it relates to LPD. So that will be our first question. If you decide to share your story, you'll have about 3 minutes, and I will be timing you on my trusty watch. And after that time, I will interrupt you and say, we're done, thank you. Let's move on. Any questions? About 3 minutes. It sounds like a short time, but it's actually a long time to talk about a story. And I think if you think about it now, you can get your head around it, and we'll respect the moment. Great question, thank you. So about 3 minutes per story, and we really want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because one of the things we wrestle with, can we make soft pedal it? Just talk about your experiences. No, we want to talk about the black thing, because it's a black thing happening right now, and we're leaning into this moment to learn so that we can get to those next levels for our community. We can't control what happens in Minneapolis, but we can darn well control what happens in Lynchburg. So with that said, I got ground rules, and we'll open it up. So the question, ground rules, just in terms of being respectful of each other. One person talks at a time. The mics are here. So if you would like to share your story related to that question, you can come up, stand at a mic. Share airtime, and I will be facilitating that to make sure we don't overrun and be respectful of each other's time. Respect one another's opinions. One thing's for certain, your story is your story. It is your lived experience, and we want to hear it. Okay to disagree, and don't take it personal. If someone says something that maybe creates an ouch for you, just don't take it personal. No name calling. Let's respect one another. And there's this thing in facilitation called support the ouch rule. That would mean that if someone says something and it really hurt your feelings, then you say, ouch, that hurt, and this is why. So that we can educate each other as to why it hurts. Because I would imagine that if I was a police officer around about now, I would be feeling very ouched. Because there's a stigma that has been spread across the department about everybody. And so this is our moment to really learn and educate each other. Okay? All true applies. It's okay. And unfortunately for the police officers, they don't get the mic. They can only observe. Sorry. All right. Who's our first brave soul answering the question? Share your experience. Oh, yeah. I done jumped the gun. Thank you, Ryan. I skipped over the backdrop. Chief Zunema is going to give us some feedback as to the actions he has taken so far regarding the feedback that has been coming into his organization pretty consistently lately. So, Chief Ryan, would you give us a brief update or an update on what actions you've taken to lean into this moment?
Thank you, Glory. And I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. Those of you know me know I can talk, so I want to be here to hear what you have to say, not just occupy your time. A couple things. Again, just to reiterate, we're here to listen to what you have to say. We truly want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, like Gloria said. We don't have oftentimes the same perspective on an incident that you may have that we are all involved in, so we want to hear that. We want to get that information and gather it through this session, through several other sessions in the upcoming weeks, as well as the many individuals and groups that we've been meeting with over the last almost month now. And we're going to gather all that information together, and then we're going to look at, what, like Gloria said, what are the common themes, what are the areas for improvement, where can we make some progress, and try and identify those. And then we'll ultimately get a plan of action moving forward and certainly share that out with you. So I want to touch on just a couple things real quick that we've been doing since the very tragic death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. We looked, obviously, we'd be a little bit remiss if we didn't. We looked at all of our policies, procedures, practices to make sure that they were where they needed to be. What we identified with a couple of things related to some of the more common things you've heard in the community, in the media, and across the nation related to chokeholds, duty to report, neck restraints, duty to intervene, things like that. So all of those things, chokeholds we've never authorized in the department, never trained on that or any type of neck restraint. We've always had the expectation of a duty to intervene and a duty to report should an officer be out of line using excessive force. But what we found is, although we were training that wasn't really codified, for lack of better terms, in our policy. So we've added that to that. We've also looked at our body-worn camera program, which we've had in place for about 4 years now. And there were a couple of units that were not mandatory that they wore body-worn cameras during their operations. We've changed that and made sure that those are mandatory for those units as well now. One of the things we heard really early on, and I appreciate the feedback, was, hey, you guys need to have an online complaint form. You don't have that. That's up and running as of, I think, yesterday. That's in action. So now, instead of having to either call down to the station or send an email or show up at the station, you can go online and fill out that information online. So that was, quite honestly, something that we should have had in place, to be very honestly, a long time ago. We didn't. And only through conversations like this did somebody say, hey, dummies, you need to put that out there, right? And that's what we did. So that's in place now. Again, we've met with a lot of groups and individuals. We're looking at additional training to supplement the pretty rigorous training our folks already go through now, and that's not just early on. That's throughout their entire careers. They continually get training. So we're looking at additional training that we can do to supplement some of the de-escalation training we've already done and other things related to that. We're looking at additional policies to make sure we review our policies on a regular basis. We're a nationally accredited organization. We have been since 1989. We meet several, I think it's 300 to 400 standards that we have to meet on a regular basis to stay accredited. But we're still going to look at those policies to see if there's any room for improvement in any areas there. We're in the process of identifying individuals within our department to establish an internal diversity committee to look at everything from gender to race to how they orient to everything in between, to make sure that we understand what's going on in our department, first and foremost, as it relates to all those things, as well as their perspective on what's going on outside of our department in the community. So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to partner with, we have a community policing advisory group we've had since 2015. That group, a couple members are here, so I appreciate those that are here. Thank you for being here. We're going to continue to work through that group to do a lot of the stuff we're doing. They do great work. They do a lot of the things that we've already been asked to do, but we're going to formalize that a little bit more and put a little bit more structure to that to make sure that group can continue to aid us as we serve the community. We're also looking at being more transparent with releasing additional data that we haven't probably released in the past. It's data that if you asked for, we would give it to you, but otherwise we hadn't necessarily gone out and done that. So we're going to do that through a website. It's in development right now. We'll be able to update information on a regular basis, provide more transparency that way, and that's really important. And if I had to summarize kind of the three big things right now, it's accountability, it's transparency, and it's training. And those are all things we're going to continue to work on as we move forward. we're consistently looking at ways to improve. We are not an organization that sits and just says, yeah, we've got everything perfect. We don't need to do anything else. We're going to constantly look at how we can improve procedures, practices, policies, and anything like that to make sure we are doing the best we can. One example of that through our community policing advisory group, made up of folks in our community, we have streamlined our hiring process, our recruiting process that used to take much longer. We got a lot of good feedback from folks to help streamline that a little bit. They also were involved with developing our body-worn camera policy many years ago. So we're going to take all this feedback you guys give us. We really, truly do want to hear what you have to say. You're not going to hurt my feelings or anybody else's here, so please be brutally honest with us. Tell us what you're thinking, what you're feeling as well. We're going to take that information, again, work that back through, see what those common themes are, and try and address those. And we'll take copious notes. As you heard, Carrie Dungan is going to sit over there and do that. We just appreciate everyone being here on a hot night like this. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. So I'm going to turn it back over to Gloria right now. We did have one officer that we didn't recognize in the back, or was an officer, is about to be an officer again. That's Joe Tucker, if you can raise your hand back there, Joe. So Joe worked with us for several years. He left a few months back to explore other opportunities, and I'm very, very grateful that he's decided to return to the PD. Starts back next week or the week after? Next week. So it starts back next week with us. So we're grateful to have Joe back as well, and I'm going to turn it back over to Gloria. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Chief Zunema. Okay, so now it's our time to share stories. It really is about your stories, your experiences. Who would like to kick us off? That's anybody in the room. Okay, would you come up, please, and take a mic?
Excuse me, before you start, can I use an officer as an example in my little skit? If not, I just do it. Just
Okay, if you would, yeah, turn this, yeah. the
turn
mic.
this way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, we probably should. How should we do this?
As long as she turns the mic, that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
because the audience is behind her.
Do you want to turn it this way?
Okay,
Comfortable addressing that way, that's fine.
I'll address this way.
okay, perfect.
Turn the mic around.
There you go.
Hello, my name is Consuela Mosley. I'm a survivor of police brutality. I am tired of every time a white person calls to police for false information and stating a black person is being belligerent, disorderly, or stealing a product. With my experience at CVS Pharmacy on Lincoln Road, June 14, 2009, I was bruised. I was tased. The police officer was called. I don't have nothing in my hand. I'm unarmed. But just because you have a badge don't give you a right to grab my arm and then tell me I'm on arrest. So while being in handcuffs and being tasered in my left breast and not knowing I was tased in my left knee, I had to go to jail. I never committed a crime in my life. These are my charges. Never had a trespassing charge. This is charges that they tried to stick to mess up your record. Trespassing was forbidden to do so. How can I get a trespassing charge when there was no original order? I may pick up prescriptions only through the drive-thru, but I may not enter the store. On this day, I was found guilty. Not innocent. It says innocent but guilty, but no. I was guilty of a class 6-5 felonies, assault and battery on law enforcement, resisting arrest, trespassing after forbidden to do so, disorderly conduct. So when I went to J&D court, the disorderly conduct was thrown out. So because that was thrown out, let me tell you what the other charges were. Trespassing after forbidden to do so. Intentionally prevent or attempt to prevent a lawful arrest. Assault and battery. The condition was if I don't get in trouble for a year. None of this show on my record. It's been 10 years. I went to school for nursing. I can't even ride a medical transportation van. What I want is the police department do logic and reasoning. If you go to school for nursing, we got logic and reasoning. You cannot get a nursing license until you pass that test. When you get a call, your instinct should be not, when we go out the door, we want to go home too. But as I was racially profiled, I was false labeled, I was labeled as a double dipper, all these, and yet this is the only thing you see on my record. So what I would like for the police officer to do is start investigating, fire the people. J.W. Blankenship was the officer that tased me, R.E. Coleman III was the one that kept recommending him to tase me after 3 commands. After 3 commands, I looked at J.W. Blake. He didn't want to tase me, but he was commanded 3 times to tase me. After that, you can't see I have a disability. Some people don't know me. I was in a car accident. I was on a cane for 9 years. And because I can't put my hands behind my back, you're going to tell me I'm not compliant? But you can't see my pain. You can't feel my pain. But if I have my receipt and I tell you, why should you treat me like a criminal? We want to be treated equally. Why shouldn't you ask us, and why should you believe us? Yet, we go around, we carry a gun. We're always labeled. Let's get rid of the labels. We are humans. Stop labeling black and white. We are humans. And the first response say, ma'am, what's going on? Nobody asked me my side of the story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable. Who would like to go next? Anyone under the tent qualifies? All citizens.
Hello, good evening. I only speak on behalf of myself. I have witnessed many of my family members and friends not in good encounters with law enforcement, and I know there is a stigma on you guys, but I do appreciate the ones who are trying to fight that stigma and try to make things better for our community. My husband, and he was, I think, 3 years old at the time. We were pulled over for a faulty light. It was at nighttime, and once you see those lights, you get paranoid. You almost have a panic attack. When we were pulled over, the guy told us what we were pulled over for, and he told my husband, if you want to see, you can get out the car. At the time, we didn't think about it. He just said, I want to see, because the car was fairly new. So he decided to get out the car, but him getting out the car, that could have went really, really bad. As I was listening with the window down, he was telling my husband what was going on with the car, but he told my husband asked like a question, like, was it necessary to do something like that? And he got really angry with him, and he was like, don't give me an attitude. But my husband didn't have an attitude. And I guess my frustration with it all was like, why do you have to approach a black man? My husband, he has dreads, he's light skinned, he might fit that kind of stigma, but he's not like a person that's willing to just do wrong by somebody. So I hate that he gets labeled as somebody that's going to harm you. So I guess I got so upset, because I was like, why did he think that he was going to naturally just get an attitude just because he was, I guess, a black man, and he asked what was his charges and what was wrong with the car? So I guess I get so upset with the situation, because we see it so often. If you're black, like law enforcement, when they're called, they already have this aggression against black men when they see him. And I guess it breaks my heart, because if you ask my 6-year-old son, what does he want to be when he grows up? He says he wants to be a police officer, and that stresses me out so much because of what's going on today. And I know my little small story doesn't fit the bigger stories that's going on today, but it just works me up so bad to the point of tears, because we just don't have that good connection with you guys. And it's just, when you call on somebody, you always say black on black crime, this, but we can't protect each other from each other. We have to find somebody that's going to protect us. If we don't find that trust in you guys, who do we call on? We can't just live in fear around just people, our own people of any other color, and then have to fear you guys as well. So I know my story was a little bit small, but I just wanted to just share a piece of my experience, because it's so frustrating. I work around kids, and I see how they look at law enforcement. I saw these 2 little kids. We saw a person coming into our school, just to do certain things. And one of the little black kids was like, you better be quiet or they're going to lock you up. And the little white kid was like, no, they're not. They're nice. So I'm like, why do 2 children have that same 2 different, I guess, feelings when they see law enforcement? It shouldn't be like that. So I just wanted to say that little bit of my story. And I just wish it would get better, because I want my son to grow up and be what he wants to be. If he wants to be a police officer, I wanted to support that. But it's so fearful to hear that, because we just don't have that great connection with you guys. And I just hope y'all can find time to do that. And doing this today just makes me feel a little bit more safe that y'all are trying to move forward in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your story. Who else would like to share their story? Your experience with policemen.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
2 years ago, I was 69 years of age. A young man threatened me, but I wasn't having it. So I called 911. He kept going to me. He wanted to fight me. So the cops came, two young cops, male and female. They talked to me. And it seems like what it is, listen to both these young ladies, is called respect. So as he talked to me about what happened, he went to the young man. I walked into my living room. They both came behind me, picked me up, and brought me outside and said, you don't have to watch me talk to him, but you can't go inside. At the time, I didn't think about how he treated me. I got home, I said, he could have asked me to come outside and explain to me. It's all about respect.
Thank you. Thank you. Who else would like to share their story and their experience, good, bad, and ugly, regarding policing? Your experiences.
Hi, my name is Javetta Harris, and I have a family member that has been in trouble with the law. They were not innocent, okay? So my problem is, when we have family members that get in trouble and they're not innocent, why can't they be held accountable for the charges they actually did and not other stuff being thrown in with it that they did not do? That's what bothers me. And when this situation happened with my family member, it was a long investigation. It was drug related. They had been under investigation for a while. And I went to court with them. They treated me like crap. The police called my house, tried to do scare tactics with me against my other son that wasn't in trouble. What is that? And then when we get in the system, we don't have any representations as far as lawyers. It's already in the lawyers, the public defender's mind, the judge's mind, that y'all got the power. Lock them up. Never mind that they might have a drug problem or need some type of help or assistance. You just want to destroy people's lives so they can't even have a second chance of coming back. I got in trouble when I was 18 and 23. Went to jail for 7 days and turned my life around after that. I was an abused child by my dad, my sisters and I. And it caused me all kind of mental, emotional, and psychological problems. You don't know the hell I had to go through to be standing up here as healthy as I am today. I went to counseling. I went to therapy, psychologists, NA, AA, 3 treatment centers. But I'm a success story today. But unfortunately, it's a lot of African Americans, they don't get the chance to even try to get it together. Because once they go in the system, everybody wants to throw all their shit at them. And they didn't even do half of it. Let them have the charges that they actually did and quit throwing in the bullshit with it. And we don't have no help. We don't have the money to get the lawyers. We get public defenders that don't give a crap about us. That's what I'm mad about. Then you got moms that got boys, like I did. Police calling my house, scaring me. Like they're going to take my youngest boy that hadn't did nothing. Then I get down there, they treat me like shit, like I'm the criminal. So that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Others?
Good evening, everyone. My story is last year, probably about this time, we had went to Disney World for a trip with our church and actually came back a day earlier. Well, needless to say, me and my family were upstairs, and my neighbor called and said that there were a lot of police officers outside my door. My son was in the shower, and I was upstairs laying down. I'm going to make this as brief as possible. But when I went outside, they were looking for someone that I didn't know, and they said that they had come into my house. But like I said, I was upstairs, and they ended up finding drugs in my basement that my son says that he had a party while I was gone, and he was trying to get the drugs out of the house, but with me coming home early, I kind of caught him. But now I'm having a problem with I have a 14-year-old. My son is 24. I have a 14-year-old, and I'm trying to get her to see policemen in a good light. I don't want her to think that all of them are distrustful and can be mean. But after this happened, about 3 weeks after this happened with my son, there were a couple of cops, and they kept coming by my house, putting up the Black Power sign to my daughter and her friends. And, it bothered me. It angered me at first, and so I didn't speak up about it, but then it happened 2 more times, and so I chose to speak up, and I called their superior, and I said, if it happens again, I will call WSET, and then you can explain to them what happened. Then it stopped. So probably a month later, I had a problem with an officer shining a light on my porch repeatedly for no reason. I'm on the porch cooking dinner on the grill, and luckily, my neighbor has a door dash or a camera dash. And anyway, he was able to see the officer in the car that he was driving. And I called to report it. Once I called to report it, it stopped. But you all say that you want to get the children to trust you. But it's very hard to do that when you've got grown men that we look at to protect and to serve. And you have looking through the eyes of a 13-year-old when this type of behavior happens repeatedly. And they came back probably about 3 months later to arrest my son because they had wrote up one of the charges wrong. Well, anyway, they got a grand jury to come forward. I begged this police officer, do not go upstairs. That my same 13-year-old daughter who has seen the police through not so good eyes, I said she sleeps naked sometimes, and I would appreciate if you would let me go upstairs. No, he went up there by himself. And my daughter said that he pulled the cover back off of her and said, I see that you're undressed, and I'll step outside and you can go ahead and get dressed. At that point, I was so angry. But, God told me, don't speak about it in anger. I'm going to bring a time when you'll be able to share this, and you won't have to share it in anger. So I'm thankful that this day is today. But how do you explain that to children when you want them to be trustworthy and these things are happening? We don't have anything to do with what happened to my son. So why is it that they would pick on a 13-year-old child, with these things happening, and she didn't have anything to do with what happened with my son?
Thank you.
And that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you. The mic is open.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Brandon. I don't have a problem with the police officers here, per se. I had them with them in Bedford when I lived there a few years ago. They tased my son, and it was the wrong person they was looking for. But I was sitting in a van. A policeman rolled up an unmarked car, asked me a couple of questions, and I said, well, I'm just dropping my son off, blah, blah, blah. And then he pulls him out the car and tells me to sit there, tases him to the ground, picks him up, put him in handcuffs, and take him off. I went to the police station. I went to the sheriff's department because it happened in Bedford County. I went to the department and asked the cop what was going on. He said that his officer said A, B, and C, and that was a wrap as far as I was concerned. So there was really nothing I could do. I didn't have the money to pursue him, to try to charge him, get a lawyer and all that kind of stuff, because I know how Bedford County operates. I really do. And I'm only saying this because of the fact that, one, I know y'all police officers see evil every day. I know you do. I know you do. You see black, white, Asian, Hispanic every day. And it's kind of hard to put a time frame on the fact that, who's not and who is doing right and doing what's doing wrong. I can understand that. But here's something I want y'all to understand. Everybody ain't evil. Everybody is not evil. Of course, we got people running around with the pandemic going on, and I don't have no money for a job going on, and I got to steal this, that, and the other. Yeah, that's happening. Sure it is. But there are times, and I mean this, there are times when you can actually see what's going on, and in your own department, and it doesn't even matter what department it is. There's stuff that's going on in the own department that y'all know about. So when they hit the street, it's all out war on black people. It is. It's all out war because you got it in your mind straight up that everybody's bad. That's not the way it go. I know some of y'all are not like that, but let me just tell you what she said. Like what she said. When you decide that you leave the station, going out into your job, doing whatever you have to do, answering a call or whatever, does it ever enter your mind that you could just like get there for a minute and just kind of assess what's going on before you decide you're going to take action? Or is it okay for the officers to just jump in there gun ho like they've been doing? Because I've seen it. I have seen it. The only other thing I can say on this whole thing is that I would like to see when y'all recruit people to make sure they understand that it's not all about evilness.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Turn the cameras off. I have worked in the Lynchburg City Schools, and some years ago I talked to a resource officer, and I says, why do when they draw they shoot to kill? And I was told that's the way they are trained. Police officers are trained to shoot to kill. Why can't you shoot them in the leg if they run, if it's that bad, or in the arm, instead of killing black people? I was looking at the news in Campbell County when this man was running with no clothes on. He had committed murder. What was the officer doing? Running after him. And I'm going, what in the world? And if a black man do that, you're going to shoot to kill. I mean, he have killed his whole family. So, that's one of my concerns. And back in the 60s, when it used to be nip joints, I don't know how many of y'all know about 5th Street. Used to be a jumping area back in my time. And we had officers that would walk the beat. They knew everybody. Everybody respected them. And they knew what was going on. They knew who was who and what was what. Why can't it be like that now? That's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Others?
Hi, my name is Mark, and I was born and raised here in the city of Lynchburg. I've had occasion to live in other states, and I've had interactions with the police in multiple states here in Lynchburg. From the time I was a young man driving and learning how to drive nice, all the way up to just recently. And I guess my thought is, overall, I think the police here are like the police in a lot of places. They do a thankless job. They meet people on the worst day of their life. And I'm here to tell you, as police officers, you have 100% my support. Not everything that happens is going to happen the way we would all like it to happen. I got up this morning before 4 a.m. and I went out on a job site and worked in this heat all day, and I just got here a few minutes ago. And a lot of the money I make this year, my family and I will pay in property taxes. And a lot of it goes to fund the police department, and it's one of the things, not everything in the city, but it's one of the things that I'm glad my money pays for. I don't want to hear about it being defunded. I don't want to hear about police being disrespected. I want the police to do the best they can. And I believe, for the most part, that they do. And if I see something that I can help them do, I'm going to help them. If they tell me to get away, move away, put my hands behind them, I'm going to do what the officer says. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Are there others? We want to give everyone a chance to share their experiences. There's power in listening to a story because we own our stories. And as an observer, we can learn from the behavior of the story and then begin to adjust our behaviors. Is there someone else would like the mic? Mm-hmm. Come on up.
Hi, I wasn't going to speak, but I do want to respond to what was just said. But I want to speak specifically as my experience as a student at IC Glass and about school resource officers and the presence of the police in Lynchburg City schools. What we've seen in the last few years, and we have a lot of data to own up to this, is that the presence of the police in Lynchburg City schools is a huge detriment to the safety of Black and brown students, right? And that a lot of what we hear is that the police officers are there to protect students, right? But what we've actually seen is that the police officers have become sort of a form of disciplinarians in the school system. And I can definitely say my experience at Glass that white and Black students are disciplined in a different way. Right? And a lot of it happens from the classroom to the hallways. And one of the stories that really got me today is the officer told someone's partner, "Are you giving me attitude?" We see the same things in the school system, right? "Oh, you're giving me attitude." Okay, and then that altercation starts. What did the student even do in the first place? And then the SRO is brought in, right? A lot of it happens in the hallways. White kids walk the hallways knowing they're probably not going to be stopped for a pass. We have incidences where students have hall passes but still get harassed by teachers, and then the SRO is brought in. So I do want to say that I do believe the police shouldn't be in the school system. SROs do need to be removed, and they need to be replaced with mental health professionals. Thank you.
Thank you for that perspective. Others? We don't want to stifle anyone's story before we shift. We're scheduled to be here until 8.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, you coming up?
Kind of an awkward quiet. I have one question. How many policemen here today actually patrol this area? Please raise your hand. None? One.
Yeah.
patrols the area. Interesting. Very interesting. I will share my story, one of many at the next ones. I just wanted to know who showed up for the first event from the Lynchburg Police Department, where Police Chief Ryan Zudema has said, and I believe you, but I want to see those guys and women here. It's about community. Roll your windows down and wave. Speak. No one's here shooting into your cars. Slow down and look at the lady on the porch. Wave at the man on the corner, whether he's young, older, turning around with a frown on his face. A wave might change that. That's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? We have a gentleman coming up. Thank you.
I don't know. I wasn't here in the beginning. I prefer not to be recorded, and I don't want to give any interviews. But I don't know if you guys realize how intimidating this setup would be for anyone who had an issue with the police. You're recording me so that then you can review that, and there's a such thing as retaliation. And if there's a distrust already with the police, I would think that a person who had a criminal background, who was in trouble, would come here and turn around if I saw cameras and all the police standing around looking at me. I just don't understand this setup. This just doesn't make any sense to me. I almost turned around when I walked down. I was like, this is what we're talking about? This is the police listening, or at least one police listening? There has to be something better than what this is, because the real people who have issue with the police won't come here if they see this, and they're already not coming because I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen comments saying, hey, I'm not going to that. They're not serious. They don't want to listen. And if I showed up here, I would be really honest to say, these people are not seriously want to listen to me. They want to record me and post me everywhere saying something about the police and make me look bad and possibly retaliate against me. You have to think that. You have to think that the least common denominator, what do I really want to listen to the people in the city? Or do I want to record them? This is not a good setup.
Thank you for that feedback. That's great feedback. You live and you learn.
I don't wear the same mask every day. I like to be heard, not seen. There's a whole lot I could say and go on and on, but hey.
Others who would like to share. Thank you.
So this feels a little petty compared to the stories shared here today, but I don't think I see any police officers wearing masks, and we're dealing with a pandemic that is disproportionately affecting Black people, and you're inviting people here and not wearing masks. I see you at the protests, and y'all's faces are so close to the protesters, yet y'all aren't wearing masks. What's going on with that? Why are police officers not wearing masks here or in other cities?
Thank you for that feedback. Others. Stories about your experiences with community policing in Lynchburg. We don't want to stifle anyone's story. We know it takes a level of bravery to stand, to be recorded. So if you hear and would like to share your story, please come up. So we're going to shift. I don't see any movements toward the front. So now we're going to shift, because I would think that one of the things about being vulnerable to feedback, and by trade, I'm an executive coach. So I kind of know what it feels like to be told that your baby is ugly, and you got to suck it up. You got to stay with it, cringe through it to get to that new place of how will I begin to show up in the future? What things do I need to change systematically, etc., to get to this new idea of how to show up as a police officer? And it is my hope that as a police officer listening to these stories, that you would not want to be one of those people that these brave people have described. It's kind of hard to hear. It's kind of hard to hear. And the thing about a story is, once you hear the story, it doesn't go away. It kind of sticks with you when you're in the shower, riding around in your car, tell your friends, did you know this happened to her? Did you know this happened to him? And that is the power of stories. So we're going to shift, and we want to think about imagining a new world order, because I do believe that in Lynchburg, Virginia, there is a desire to meet all its citizens where they are. And in order to do that, they need to know what's in your head. A part of this whole movement that kind of removed the scales in Minneapolis is this idea about now what? And what do we want when we are struggling for equality, Black Lives Matter, etc.? What do we really want? And so with that backdrop, what we want to do now is shift this group to thinking about imagining a perfect policing department. Imagining what would you want an officer to do? How would you want them to show up at your door? How would you want them to treat you as a fellow human being and a citizen? So the next time we open the mic, we'll keep the same structure, 3 minutes, but I want to give you some time to think about what is it you want as a citizen when we think about community policing that they can capture and carry back. Because this is our moment to define the what. Because I would like to argue that if they knew the answer, we wouldn't be here now. So their trying doesn't get it. What is it you want? And how do we capture those moments? Not saying that they can make it happen, but when you know more, you can do more. Any questions with that? So I'll give you a minute or so, unless someone is quick on their feet. What would community policing look like for you to meet your needs? Because we can't handle anybody outside the room. What would it take when a police shows up with you for you to have a good experience? When they stop you with the light out, the rear end light out, when you're speeding and get pulled over, how would you want that policeman to interact with you? Any questions? So we're going to open the mics up. So come up when you're ready. If you feel comfortable, go for it.
The brother had a good point back there. That's very true, because you don't want to be seen as a target. Because I have a lot of respect for everybody who just came here and to listen, because it's hard. If I had to sit down in my job and listen to what people had to say about my profession, that would be hard for me. But I think back to what I was saying, even though I was all emotional about it, I just don't want my husband, my son, or anybody to just be pulled over and automatically just because they see a black person that they're going to be a threat, it's going to be an issue, they're going to be resistant. I respect what this brother said, because he kind of went opposite of what we were saying, because what he says, what everybody is saying in the WSET comments about back in the blue and stuff. I respect your profession with the utmost. If something happens, I'm going to call on you guys. but we don't, there's this thing going on that just keeps happening when black people call you or when you're entering a black situation, that there's some aggression and that they need to be handled differently than a white person. And that's what I want to see change. Like, if you're going to give the law to everybody and be fair. We want equality because we see it time and time again. There's a person who put videos together of how white men were handled who did the same crime as black men, and it's just two totally different environments, and I don't want my child to see that. We stress out so much about routine traffic stops and everything, and it shouldn't be that way. We should be like, oh, if I got a lighter, I need to go fix that. Oh no, my life is in danger, I'm about to get, shot. You don't want to think like that. That's my
So what I'm hearing is this idea of the commonality is we're human. Treat us as a human fellow citizen without some sort of prejudgments. It's kind of like cutting through it. All right, next up, who else would like to share? What would an ideal policing look like for you?
Well, for me, I would like to see, I know police officers aren't in human services, that type of thing, but there was a time when police officers were approachable, they were friendly. Our kids could come up to you guys and say hi, and you guys would interact with them. But it's not like that anymore. And my heart's desire is we need you guys. It's not that we don't need you, but we need you. I mean, the African community needs you. Most of our households are single moms. And sometimes if we just had you guys around, and if you see one of our kids maybe going the wrong way or doing something, if you could just say something to them that'll shift their thinking, give them a chance without just writing them off.
So
I know it's not you're not their dad, but can't you guys help us to help our kids?
So what I'm hearing is relationship.
Yeah.
And for lack of a better word, it's about give them a break sometime. Just because you got a rule don't mean you have to follow it all the way.
If you don't stop this, you're going to end up here.
Yeah.
And show
So
them that
educate
somebody
relationship.
do care, because we have single parent homes. I raised 2 boys by myself. And one got in trouble like 5 years ago, and as I sit here speaking today, he's in trouble again.
Thank you.
And I'm an adult, and he's an adult now, and I feel so much guilt because I couldn't get him a father. And now he's sitting right back in jail with the same charges and even more. Because raising them was hard. I couldn't find a man. I went to the Big Brother Sister organization to try to get them some help because I knew how important that male figure was in their life.
Thank you
And
for
it's
your
not,
transparency.
we need you guys. We need your help, but in the right way.
That's right.
You're going to smack them on the hand. Smack them on the hand when you see them little. Hey, don't do that. You want to go to jail? Let them know what it's going to be like. Just share your heart. Let them know that you care. Help us. It's not that we don't care. We're not all bad. We're out here striving. Trying to save their lives. Trying to teach them what to do. But it's hard when you're by yourself.
So let me see if we captured you right. It's about relationships, it's about guidance, and it's about, I don't know how to say it, it's about giving people a break. It's that exception rule. They call it in the business world judgment and discretion. That's when you really kind of do something with discretion. All right, so we got you. Thank you.
Y'all see something else other than what we see.
Thank you.
Get to know the community.
Get to know the community. It would be an ideal policing.
I have friends. I love their kids. I'm not prejudiced against them. I got all kind of friends.
Okay, we got 2 hands up. I got this hand and I've got in the back. So I caught him first. Okay. So would you please share? What is your ideal vision for community policing? What do you want them to do?
In regards to when they stopping you and stuff, I mean, I got a scanner. I listen to it all the time. I do. I mean, some of that stuff is kind of whack, but basically, what I'd like to see is if y'all feel like you got to stop, if you got to stop somebody for a tail light, I mean, y'all got them PA systems in the car. You know what I mean? You can ask them to pull over. I mean, they're pulling over, and then you can ask them to, you know what I'm saying? Let me see your hands and all this other kind of stuff. The bottom line is, you got to walk up on them and just start, going off and everything. I mean, I've listened to it. I've seen it too. I've listened to it.
So what I'm hearing is the approach and the tone in which you approach a particular citizen when they have violated something. So it's tone and approach. I got you. Thank you. You have a comment. What's your idea of policing?
My idea of policing is going back to seasoning. I grew up in Darrington.
Mhm.
We had community policing going riding around.
What did that look like?
It looked real good. It was a mixture. It wasn't just white cops. It was a black cop and a white cop.
So
It
what
was
were
a
they
mixture.
doing?
They was building relationships. They would hang with the kids. They would talk with you. And there was less arrests made. There was less unnecessary arrests made. Also, Lieutenant Carson, my first apartment was Greenfield. They would come, Sergeant Lane, they would come, they would talk to the community. If they seen somebody, they didn't manhandle them. They didn't come to them with aggression. They treated them like human beings. And we want to see that. Also, my last statement, they took their out of schools. And once they took their out of schools, I think that was the worst program. It was the best program that they took out of school.
Okay. So the return to DARE to build relationships, to have community policing where they actually interact with the neighborhood, get to know the people,
And less
relationships,
aggression.
and less aggression. Gotcha. Thank you. Others. Yes. What would it look like?
I'm a city employee, so when something happens, and I've had several situations that happen to me and my family, and so with me being a city employee, I kind of know who to call. So I think the community, getting to know the community is a big deal. It bothers me when an officer doesn't know how to talk to people. I think they need some training in how to deal with people, even if it's the worst crime in the neighborhood, in the city. You still need to know how to talk to people. I'm really confused about discretionary charges. My husband was stopped about 3 weeks ago. They said he ran a stop sign, but then they said to him, "We don't like to cover on your license plate." He's like, "I got a light cover. What's the problem?" And the officer said, "Well, another officer may not give you a ticket, but if I see it again, I will." That's not the way you talk to people. And I mean, like I said, I'm a city employee, so I can go to somebody and talk, but everybody needs to know that they can do that.
So being able to reach out to the police department when something doesn't feel right, and this idea about training policemen to communicate better, meet a person where they are, and not kind of a one up and one down sort of thing. Okay. Others?
Am I next?
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In some years, it used to be an officer or officers assigned to certain areas, which some places have neighborhood watchers now and some don't. And they would know who to call if something was going on. Because I've been in a situation, 11 o'clock at night, all I could hear was boom, 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 boom. I'm irritated, trying to go to sleep, call the officer, or call. When they get there, they turn it down. The officers don't call me back and ask me, well, what do you want us to do? Because we don't hear anything. So if they were to patrol the area, they would know some of the things that's going on. Just talk to people. Be friendly. I raised 3 kids by myself, put them through college. They doing fine. Never had to go to court. Well, one time. That was to get the driver's license.
So what I'm hearing you say, again, it's about relationships, community assignments, so that they see this person consistently and they know names and they're able to relate to the person and not just to the situation. Gotcha. Okay.
I know he was on the football team, and I told him, you got my car. I don't want those boys in there because you don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
He did
So-
one time. I said, take off everything. I bought this. You going to the detention home.
Oh,
I'm not
Lord.
having it.
Thank you for your story.
So,
Are there other stories related to what your ideal community policing would look like? Oh, are there? Thank you.
Identifying something like culture education.
Culture education?
Right.
What would that look like for you? Put some definition around it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have like some type of videos or something of how the inside of a home is for African American female raising boys, raising a family. What the inside of that home entails. So therefore, the police can see what happens inside of the family dynamics in their training, and they can see what kind of, when those kids come outside, what is it that they have dealt with prior to coming outside. You understand what I'm saying?
I need some more. Keep talking, and maybe we can get there so that we can capture this. It's like culture of the life of a single mom. The life of a single mom.
African American family. I'm stepping into your world.
Okay.
So you can have like some person give you like a snapshot of video. This is what happens in my home, and this is a real life situation, and this is how we live, and this is how we think.
that's not.
So now you're educating yourself on the person, the dynamics of the person that you're dealing with when they come outside to be police.
Okay.
Because you can't police. It's kind of hard to police something that you don't understand.
Okay. So it's the idea of really understanding the life of, quote, a black family or single mom, so that you're positioned a little bit better to connect in the real world. Gotcha. I hope you got that, Carrie. Others in the back.
I don't think there's anything like that because everybody is different. Not every, just because you're black doesn't mean that every sheep may live differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So, but I think there are cultural competence kind of courses and seminars and classes that everybody can go through, that officers can go through to be more culturally aware.
Culturally aware
But
courses.
I think so there's cultural awareness kind of seminars
I got you.
and courses that people can go through, because I think some people may see a black person and have certain thoughts that maybe they see a young black man and think that's a thug.
Mm-hmm.
They can go through cultural awareness training to realize differences, but I don't think there's anything that can say, here is what a black family, a household looks like.
Thank you for
Because
that
just
clarification.
Like a white household, there is no model white household, Asian household, Spanish household. They're all different.
So the topic is
It's
cultural
dangerous to
awareness.
think that there is this model.
Okay.
whatever.
Thanks for level setting that. Cultural awareness would be the topic. Thank you. And you had an idea.
Okay, my background is social work.
Uh-huh.
One of my professors was saying how they used to ride along with police, and I think that it's in the air, I guess, to come back around, but apparently it's very effective. She did it before, and
So who is this professor? A psychologist?
she's a social worker.
Social worker riding with a police officer. And keep talking. How does that help?
To better connect and with the community, and it's like when we talk to people, it's easier for us to like connect with people that's within the community, and we don't wear uniforms.
Okay.
So, we look like them. Like we go in the community to look like them, and when we're there, just talking with them and understanding where they come from.
So some sort of partnership with social workers within the system. Thank you. Ideal policing, if you can imagine it. What would you want them to say and do? Sharon, and then you can come on up.
One more thing. National Night Out.
Uh-huh.
It's important to go into the neighborhoods, not have the neighborhoods come to you. Most of the neighborhoods enjoy the officers coming and getting to know them. We need to go back to where we were and going into the neighborhoods.
National Night Out neighborhood focus. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So one thing I've seen a lot, it's national but also locally, y'all seem to value arrests more than human dignity. And I understand it might be embarrassing to have someone get away that you're trying to arrest, but I really don't think a broken arm or a tased leg is worth arresting someone who might have been guilty of fraud, right? 60% of people in pretrial detention are legally innocent. And the longer you spend in pretrial detention, the more likely you're going to get in legal trouble later on. The more likely you're going to lose your apartment because you didn't pay rent in time. The more likely you're going to lose your job. Why would you arrest people when you could just give them a court date? I also think I've been looking a lot through the jail records. People getting arrested are for narcotics frequently and family assaults. I don't see how arresting people for narcotics is going to help the community. They don't need to be arrested. They need either help or let them work through it. These are not arrests that include assault. They're just for narcotics. I think it's really important that we let the most impacted in our communities control the laws, institutions, and policies that are meant to serve us. They're supposed to keep us safe, but you don't. Violations of property should never be equated with the loss of human life. No use of lethal force should be used on protesters. Yet, people are getting charged with use of a deadly weapon against police when they throw a rubber bullet back at y'all. Y'all just used a deadly weapon against us, and now y'all want to charge?
Thank you. So through that sharing, there's this idea of types of charges and the disruption of life at the end of that charge, and really thinking about it. What's the long-term impact? And is there some sort of discretion? Don't know. What else? Who else? Yes.
Sorry, I have my math with me, so I'm going to stand back to the microphone. I'm going to encourage the police. I don't know what you guys do to de-escalate yourself, but all the cop shows, all the bad boy shows, all the videos of riot gear, put it away. Put it out of your head. Start focusing on relationships and people. And if you have some idea in your head that you're going to be big and bad, you got all the gear, no way. That's not going to fly in Lynchburg. Other thing is, as a community, we are watching. That much, $0 for riot gear. No riot gear should be allowed in the city of Lynchburg. You do not need to police people with riot gear, jump out cars, or whatever cool thing, the latest technology. No, focus on human relationships. That's what we're saying here. Focus on the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ideal policing. We got, oh, come on.
Hi, I just have a question. Like, is there anything in place to have accountability for everything that's being said today? Because this community had this exact same meeting this past December, when we had an issue with the trial of a murdered student at EC Glass, right? We had these exact conversations. So I'd really want to know, what were the hard actions taken by the police since the December community engagement event? And how are we going to hold you accountable to these things that you're saying now? And who exactly, is it the police accountability group that's going to be doing that? Because it's still really clear, like, what's the community body that holds the power in holding the police accountable, right? So my main thought is, has there been action taken since the December meeting? And if it hasn't, why? And are we just about to go through this whole process again, or are we going to actually see change?
Thanks for that feedback. So my takeaway here is that there's this continuity of accountability from one event to the other. So we need to capture that moment, one event to the other, police accountability, and how does policing inform the citizens when there is an action that moves the checker with a previous situation. Kind of like define the roadmap, because it sounds as though there's this disconnect. There could be some action happening, but the community is not fed back. So how do you get this continuous loop happening so that folks feel educated and know that, yes, that was resolved and this is how it was resolved? So thank you for that feedback. Carrie, you got that concept? Others, community policing idea. I see in the back right here, Desi, would you share? And then back to you with the love.
I just wanted to say something in response to that comment on cultural training. I've been through some of those, and I've got to tell you, what I find most effective is stuff like this. Like getting to hear people's stories moves me in a way that somebody just talking, especially if the person doing the awareness training is a white professor or something, this is much more impactful. And I think that goes back to the point of how many officers here are from this neighborhood. And maybe sitting in amongst people instead of, I'm a person who likes to be on the outside too. I don't like to take a seat and be in the middle, but I don't know, be with the community.
We got a Darrington teacher in the crowd and school is not even open. The Darrington principal is here and school is not even open. That's all.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you for that feedback.
I was just going to piggyback off what someone else had said. It'd be nice to see that, because I feel like all the officers that are here today are doing what they're supposed to be doing. It'd be nice if this kind of session and all other sessions were required to listen to, moving forward. Like we have, like certain jobs you have to have recertification points. You have to look at training or go through training. I feel like hearing these comments is something they should be required to do to continue their job. Now also, I'm not sure how that all works, but is there more like repercussions if officers don't use their body cam? Because me, in a field like that, I would want my body cam on at all times to protect myself and to protect whoever else is around. And I know a lot of these incidents happen because faulty body cams and all these things going wrong with body cams not being on. So I think that should be something that could be addressed too, if it hasn't already been addressed.
So an ideal policing situation would be have the police officers wear their body cams and be accountable for using them, or have some sort of disciplinary process when there's failure to have it on and an event happens, is what I'm hearing. Okay. Others, ideal policing, if you could have it your way, what would you want them to do, say, and interact? In the back.
I have a question. We have animal patrol here too. Animal patrol? Or
Animal control here?
no, whatever it is. We have that here, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have a dog. I'm afraid of dogs. I do not like cats. So, if you, is there something in place where, or something I can do to keep them out of my yard, because I get tired of pooping up, whateve you do. Cleaning up. Scooping up poop of somebody else's animal.
So how does that help me get there with the ideal policing situation? So keep talking.
Those dogs could be vicious.
So the
And
dogs.
If I call the police and say,
You don't have to
this
say
dog
that.
is in my yard, that's a waste of time. It should be addressed to the animal thing, the warden. So I'm just wondering, that's along with police.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Who was talking about the dog originally? Was it you in the orange? Okay, I was thinking it was the lady in the black and white polka dots. I'm sorry. So you're concerned about policing and animal bathroom habits in your neighborhood? Okay, let's capture that. And is there anyone else who has a concern? Yes, the lady in the black and white. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
My name is Tia, and I grew up in the downtown area. My parents still currently live in the downtown area. And growing up in my particular neighborhood, I had, and they still ride through, the police ride through, they monitor and that sort of thing. But growing up, I personally have never been arrested. I've had a speeding ticket, but I've never been arrested or in trouble with the law, but I feel like, again, growing up, and I probably am touching on something that somebody's already said because I just got here. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but or repeating something somebody else has said. But I feel like the police should get to know the people in the community that you police, because when you're just riding around in the different neighborhoods, I feel like a lot of the police officers have assumptions on the people that live in that neighborhood and just assume that they're a particular kind of way, or they, you know, indulge in certain activity, and that is not the case. And what all the protesting and everything is about now is because when I see on TV, I do see a difference between the way white people are arrested versus the way black people are arrested. And I see that you can de-escalate situations with white people that you arrest, but it does not seem like we as African Americans get that same treatment if we're being arrested or anything. And I feel like I respect what you guys have to do. You're putting your life on the line every day for us, and I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, just as much as you may be nervous of what we may do to you, we're nervous of what you may do to us. So you can't assume that we're gonna automatically shoot you or do anything. We're just as scared of you as you are of us. And I have a 6-year-old that is seeing all of this on TV, and she asks me every day, sorry to get upset, but she asks me every day, Mom, why are the police acting like this towards people? If they're supposed to protect us, what am I supposed to do if I'm in trouble and I need help? She feels like she doesn't have anyone to go to, and she's 6 and asking these questions. And I have to explain to her, not all officers are bad, and I understand that, but there are some in the police force that are bad, and I think those are the officers that need to be weeded out. I think there should be more training, because a lot of people that you encounter on a day-to-day basis have mental health issues. And I feel like you may not know how to approach that situation, so you just assume the worst, and it takes it to another level that it doesn't need to be. And I feel like if there was more training in regards to that, maybe a bad situation doesn't have to be bad.
Thank you.
And when I was growing up, I had DARE. And I still have a good relationship with my DARE officer. He's retired now. He's a sheriff in the downtown police office. But he knows me. He's been knowing me since I've been in 1st grade.
Thank you for your story. And you had mentioned you had just gotten here, so your comments pretty much underscores what this group have previously highlighted. This idea about approach and relationship. And what do we tell our children, particularly our African American children who are seeing and wondering, who do I turn to for safety? So an ideal policing would be rebuilding and strengthening those relationships in the neighborhood. And it sounds like there's a conversation about children. Children need to be captured, because this particular, the imagery on television is in their heads. It's in their minds, and it's a concern. I've got a hand up here. Ideal policing. What do you want them to do or say?
The policemen get education on disabilities, especially Tourette's. Tourette's is uncontrollable shaking and hand movements.
Okay.
Also, I worked in the mental health field. We had training in MAT. I don't know whether are y'all trained in MAT, but I was. MAT was something they supposed to have it every
Trained in what?
MAT. It's a
MAT? M-A-T?
M-A-N-D-T.
Okay, M-A-N-D-T.
Yeah,
Training.
I forgot the acronym, the main word.
So policing need to be exposed to
MAT,
disability types of training
because
to help during arrest situations.
Instead of killing somebody, instead you grab under and you just slide them down, and you don't have to use a lot of force to de-escalate if they feel like, or if they got. But they need to have education on different types of disabilities, because Tourette's is a main one. They are unaware in different types, where it's uncontrollable movements, and you see somebody, you don't know they had this, but the first thing they'll do, they're going to shoot them because they're like, oh, I feel they was going to do something to me. When it's movements or Parkinson, is moments they have no control.
So what I hear here is getting more education around disabilities so that you know how to handle the situation
And mental health.
better, and mental health. Perfect. Thank you for that sharing. Are there others about what you would like to see in a perfect community policing environment when you interact? Yes.
I like to see the policeman just more hands-on and not shooting person. If you got two or three cops, he's handcuffed. The guy's handcuffed. Why can't you put him in the car and take him to justice? Why you gotta shoot him?
So less force when it comes to using weapons, and use kind of non-violent, like a handcuff versus, okay. You would like to see that more often. Others? Yes.
I've heard a lot from the community about Officer Kirby harassing people. I think it's important that the police force really considers when a community doesn't trust a police officer, whether or not your investigation proves it's true or not. I think it's really important to have the community know that when they don't trust a police officer, when they've had enough bad experiences, that they're going to no longer be working on our local police force.
So here is the capture, Carrie, the idea of disciplinary actions with officers with complaints, formal complaints.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that? And then there's that whole idea of how is it communicated, and if it can be communicated, because it really is a HIPAA, it's kind of like an HR thing. So, but that's something for consideration. What can you say? Okay.
I also want to have, I heard that we ended qualified immunity in one state, and I feel like we could do that in more. Unedited body cam footage has also been a demand because body cam footage is frequently used just to help cases for the cops to prosecute, and it has not been protecting the people.
So let me capture that one, this idea of unedited body cam, and really what's our position on that, etc. Education. Go ahead.
Also, we have city insurance, obviously, for when police officers commit malpractice or shoot people, right? I think it's really important that we go to individual malpractice insurance instead, so that the police officers do need to pay their own insurance, that they are responsible, that their insurance premiums go up when they mess things up, when they hurt people, when they get prosecuted. That's shown to make a difference in communities and the way that people police.
So that's attached to police accountability, of ownership of kind of like their consequences for behavior sort of thing. Did I capture that?
Now the city has to pay for the last case, and I think it's more important that the individuals take ownership of their actions.
Okay. We are at about, let me see. Oh, it's about 7:30, so we've got plenty of time. We don't want to wear you out. I thought there was a hand up in that corner anywhere. Policing, your ideal policing department.
So with the newcomers, are they with new rookies or are they with a seasonal police cop? Because I notice now it's just two rookies together, and it's always white. So it's not. When I was growing up, it was a white and a black cop. But now all you just see is two white, and you see two new rookies, but you don't see a seasoned cop with a new cop. And I think if we see a seasoned cop with a rookie, I was in a meeting. I think.
So let me capture that thought. You're thinking about new doing the orientation, partnering. An ideal police department would partner a seasoned cop with a rookie cop as partners to kind of break them in. Others.
Can we get how many years? Because I most of these.
Help me get to the connection between your ideal policing department.
How many years should they, before they let go on the owner? Because I know sometimes, I don't know how long the police training is. And what I'm saying, the ones I see out here are seasoned cops.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones we run into are rookie cops.
Mm-hmm.
That's doing all the arrests and giving the charges.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say, I would like to see
or Rikers cop with a seasoned cop.
Mhm.
So maybe if they know better, they would do better.
Okay. Carrie, did you capture that?
Yes.
Thank you. In the corner?
I'm not sure what the ratio to female to male cops,
Yes.
but I don't feel like any cop should be interacting with a female, whether they be, below age or, of age, unless they have their body cam on, unless,
Yes.
Unless they're going to call another female officer to, to intervene. This, interaction between male and female, I just don't think that should happen.
Okay.
I think that should definitely be looked at. If there's a situation where you have to pause and say, I need to call a female, to, just for my safety, so that you're not saying that I did something that I didn't do. With me having, that conversation with
Mhm.
my daughter explaining to me,
Mhm.
that should never have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Carrie, you captured that, this idea of same gender sorts of interactions where possible. Where possible. Okay, in the back with the peach.
Turn the cameras off, please.
And
What I would like to know, how
now we're answering the question. How can an ideal community policing, what would you like to see from your police department when your interactions moving forward for it to be positive? So what would that answer be?
I want to know the background check.
Background checks.
on
Keep
the
talking.
police officers.
On police officers.
Yes.
And so
Because
I don't
I don't know anything about the white supremacists. I've heard of them, but how you know who to trust?
that is through the recruitment process. So what you're thinking is a more enhanced recruitment process to capture potential associations with white supremacy and other radical groups. Okay, so that would be the concept there. Capturing in the background process, really looking for any radical group associations, such as white supremacist groups. But there are others. Okay, I feel the energy is winding down, and I like to bring us to a close. I would say thank you for your investment in this listening session. I like to hope that we've all learned something today, because it's something about hearing the story, particularly when there's emotion and angst behind it. This is real. The experiences are real. And as someone who's serving our communities, even if it's not you, there's something about calling my baby ugly that just gets you. So I like to hope that our police officers who invested their time to be here has gotten something from this exposure, and you take it back. And the next time you interact, just allow this moment to influence your future actions. You may just show up differently. Who knows? What happens next? We move on to the next center, and we do something very similar. We have taken your feedback to heart, and what we do moving forward will be discussed, because regarding the structure and the cameras, et cetera, not making any promises, because I think there are reasons and logic behind it, but we want to serve the community and create a safe space. And this whole idea of potentially creating a negative impact by sharing your story just really validates the level of work that is necessary for Lynchburg Department to do, to kind of build that trust factor such that something like that wouldn't come up, because it's a learning moment. That's what this is, a learning moment, so that we can do better. They can do better. We can do better as citizens when we all connect through human kindness. Chief Ryan?
I just want to thank Gloria for facilitating this. I think it's helped. I hope you have all gotten something out of it. I appreciate sincerely your stories and what you shared with us tonight. I've heard a lot, and if I had to try and kind of capture it in a couple of words, I would say trust and respect. And if we do those two things correctly, we are going to build those relationships that you talk about. So trust and respect are going to lead to those relationships. We are committed to that as an organization. I just want to thank you all for spending a couple hours of your night out here in the heat. Of course, now the sun goes behind the clouds when we're getting ready to leave, right? But I do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. All my guys that are here and girls that are here, I want to catch you guys real quick before we leave. But thank you all for being here. It really means a lot to me, and I hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you.